Is it the top viewed SVU clip because it's so ridiculous? And anyway, these two old guys got into a fist fight. Yeah, this is total BS. Hello everyone, I'm Matt Clark, attorney with Cohn Clark in Bakersfield, California. Today, I'm reacting to some scenes from TV shows that take place in a courtroom.
Is the person who robbed you present in the court today?
Yes.
And could you point him out to the court, please?
There.
Let the record show that the witness has identified the defendant, Mr. Saki. Thank you, Mr. Harkness.
So a lot of people don't know this, but you actually, in criminal cases, you actually have to have somebody at some point out the accused in the courtroom to ensure that that defendant is in fact the person accused of the crime. That's why you'll see that in a lot of TV shows where they actually point out, please point out who the defendant is, and they'll do it.
Your witness, Mr. Goodman?
Thank you for coming in today, Mr. Harkness. I just want to clarify a few things from your testimony, if that's okay.
Okay.
So, you were working at the Sandia Mart the night of the 30th, is that correct?
Got in at noon, left at midnight.
That's a long day. Good for you. Nothing wrong with a hard day's work. So, you say, a man came in, and he reached across the counter and, quote, he grabbed up the money from my register and run off.
Yeah.
And there was no one else in the store.
Not at that time, no.
And since the camera system wasn't working at the time, you're the only one who saw the perpetrator.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So, this person came in and they bought something.
I think it was an Almond
They
Joy.
bought an Almond Joy, and when you rang them up, that's when they snatched the cash from the register. Sounds like it happened pretty fast, but you say you got a good look at them, correct?
Yes.
You must drink stronger coffee than I do, because after 11 hours on the job, I can barely see straight. And it was dark out.
Well, he's the only guy that came in that night that wasn't made up like a bat or...
So this is what TV court dramas do that just drive me nuts, right? The lawyer literally takes a break from asking questions and begins to testify in the middle of, appears to be a cross-examination of a witness, just begins to testify. In a real courtroom, that does not happen. There would be objections, people would stop that. There's just no circumstance where the lawyer should get up and start arguing or testifying or offering their opinion in the midst of the examination of a witness.
Bat or a cat or whatever the hell those guys are. And he was right up in my face.
Right? And according to your testimony, you feel confident that you can identify this person. That's what you're saying.
I can. Absolutely. It's him. Your client.
Are you sure that's the person? There's no doubt in your mind. Take your time.
I don't need time, that's him.
Now, would you be surprised to learn, Mr. Harkness, that the person you just pointed to is not the defendant?
What?
My client is in the back of the courtroom. Mr. Saki, would you please stand up?
Objection.
Now, the person you ID'd is named Hollis Early. He's a bartender down in Berlin. He has a very good alibi for the night in question.
Your Honor, objection.
Oh, Mr. Goodman, really?
You didn't recognize him either, Your Honor.
All right, settle down, everybody. Settle. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to call it a day. I will have very specific instructions for you tomorrow. But as always, please refrain from discussing the case until then, and I will see counsel in my chambers now.
So in real life, if you pulled off a stunt like that where you brought in what amounts to a look-alike to sit at counsel's table and play the defendant in a criminal case, I can almost be certain that there is no judge in the land who would not grant a mistrial under those circumstances and force the parties back to retry the case again, especially with some really strict orders in place that not happen another time.
Mr. Barba, are you ready to begin your cross-examination of the defendant?
No, Your Honor. I'd like to recall a witness, Luke Keller. Luke, did you intentionally shoot Trey Franklin because you were angry at him for being in a sexual relationship with your mother?
No. That's not true. I shot him because I thought he was raping her.
And why did you think that?
Because she looked me in the eye and yelled, "Help, he's raping me."
Members of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Can I just say this right off the bat? This is not the most well-acted clip I've seen of the bunch. I mean, this is like, as a guy who's watched some Law and Order in my time, this is not the high watermark for Law and Order episodes. The kid, not a very good actor. The music, the area is like almost too high drama. It's almost comical, and I don't think that's what they were going for.
We have, Your Honor.
What say you?
On the charge of second-degree murder, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of third-degree rape of a minor, we find the defendant guilty.
State of New York thanks you for your service. Court is adjourned.
Look, I love you, and I forgive you. I do. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? I'm still your mother. I'll always be your mother, no matter what you've done. I'll always be your mother. Congratulations.
Context for this clip was just like the top viewed SVU clip. So
Is it the top viewed SVU clip because it's so ridiculous? Like I don't know. Law and Order. Back in my era, Law and Order was serious, well acted. You know, Dick Wolf, who's the producer of this show and has been for, I don't know, my entire lifetime at this point. I mean, Law and Order is one of those shows, in my opinion, that is completely unrealistic. The actual courtroom trial is like 8 minutes of the show. Trying to compress a trial into 8 minutes is not possible, okay? So how do they get around it? The lawyers argue and they go on these like soliloquies in the middle of trial, which you can't do that, okay? There's only one time in a courtroom trial where the lawyers are supposed to argue, and that is in closing argument, right? But Law and Order, they don't follow those rules. The lawyers, this is a show, I'll give you an example. Like the lawyers come straight up to the witness stand. They'll put their arm down and they'll look the witness in the eyes, right? In most courtrooms, that would never be allowed. You're not allowed to get right in the witness's face. It's just, that's not real life. That's TV drama, and I guess that's why Law and Order has survived on TV for what seems like 50 years now. What they really did in this clip is they recalled a witness. You can recall a witness, but in order to do that, it's not like you just get to stand up and say, "Judge, I want to recall, witness so-and-so." There would have actually been a behind-the-scenes discussion with the judge beforehand. You'd have to have the court's permission to do it. You'd have to show sufficient grounds to call a witness back in. Normally, you get one shot at the witness, okay? There's direct examination, there's cross-examination, there may be redirect and recross, but once that witness is dismissed, it is exceedingly rare for you to have the opportunity to recall a witness into the courtroom to testify. I should tell you a story though real quick. So I'll give you one example of when court should never be dramatic, yet it was. So I was at what's called a case management conference. This is several years ago. At a case management conference, literally nothing happens. You're given a trial date, you're maybe given what's called a final case management conference date, and you leave the courtroom. There's no argument, there's no discussion. It's just about getting dates. Well, this particular morning in this particular courtroom, there happened to be what we call two pro per plaintiffs. That means they were representing themselves. They didn't have lawyers. And it was a dispute between two old codgers in this local gardening club, okay? And they get up and they literally want to try their case during the case management conference. And of course the judge has to explain that this isn't what we're here for, that you're just going to get a date. And they start kind of jawing back and forth with one another. Finally, the judge gives them the dates and says, "Guys, you got to get out of here." And so they go to walk out of the courtroom. And in this particular courtroom, there's As you walk out the door of the courtroom, you kind of walk into a little area, a little vestibule. And next thing you know, you hear this big ruckus from the vestibule, and all the lawyers are looking over going, what the heck's going on? I mean, and anyway, these two old guys got into a fist fight in the vestibule. I mean, these guys were like 80 years old. They're in a fist fight in the vestibule. The bailiff's got to arrest them both. One guy comes out with a broken nose turned sideways, blood all over the place. I knew that particular bailiff, and I recall asking him like a week later, it was like, you know, you got some action last week. And he says, you know, I've been in this courthouse 20 years. This is the first time I ever had to break up a fight. It was between two old guys in a fight over the local gardening club. So that's when you, once in a blue moon, you'll see some drama in a civil courtroom.
Mr. Little, can I ask why you came forward in this case?
I told the police what I know.
Were you offered anything in exchange?
Like what?
Were you arrested? Were you going to be charged with a crime, and by testifying, did the police agree to drop those charges?
Nah, man, ain't even about that.
How many times have you been arrested as an adult, Mr. Little?
Sure, I done lost count. Enough though not to take it personal.
Possession of a handgun, possessing a concealed weapon, assault by pointing, robbery, deadly weapon, possession of a handgun again, followed by violation of parole on weapon charges, followed by one count of attempted murder and use of a handgun in commission of a felony.
That wasn't no attempt murder.
What was it, Mr. Little?
I shot the boy Mike in his hind parts, that all. Fixed it so he couldn't sit right.
Why'd you shoot Mike in his hind parts, Mr. Little?
Let's say we had a disagreement.
A disagreement over?
Well, you see, Mike thought he should keep that cocaine he was slinging and the money he was making from slinging it. I thought otherwise.
So you rob drug dealers? This is what you do?
Yes, sir.
You walk the streets of Baltimore with a gun, taking what you want when you want it, willing to use violence when your demands aren't met. This is who you are. Why should we believe your testimony then? Why believe anything you say?
That's up to y'all, really.
You say you aren't here testifying against the defendant because of any deal you made with police.
True that.
That you're here because you want to tell the truth about what happened to Mr. Gant in that housing project parking lot.
Yep.
When in fact, you are exactly the kind of person who would, if you felt you needed to, shoot a man down on a housing project parking lot and then lie to the police about it, would you not?
Hey, look, I ain't never put my gun on no citizen.
You are amoral, are you not? You are feeding off the violence and the despair of the drug trade. You're stealing from those who themselves are stealing the lifeblood from our city. You are a parasite who leeches off
just like you,
the culture of drugs. Excuse me? What?
I got the shotgun. You got the briefcase. It's on the game, though, right?
So there's a lot of things going on in that clip. Let me start by saying, God rest in peace, Omar. What the lawyer is trying to do in that scene is impugn Omar's credibility with a laundry list of things that he had done in his past, okay? We call that character evidence. But there's only certain types of character evidence that's ultimately admissible. So if you notice in that clip, what the lawyer says is, you've been arrested all of these times, okay? Well, what he fails to say is, you were convicted all of these times. So in a civil courtroom, the fact that you've been arrested in almost all circumstances is inadmissible to impugn your credibility, okay? Being arrested, it doesn't amount to anything, right? It's, were you convicted or did you plead? And in California, in almost all circumstances, if you were found guilty or you pled only to a infraction, which we think of as like a citation, speeding ticket, something of that nature, or a misdemeanor, those things aren't admissible. It's only felonies that become admissible to the extent that you can admit it to a court or admit it to a jury to allow it, hopefully, to impugn a witness's credibility. Okay, so this one is a clip from Daredevil. I have not watched this show, so this is going to be new to me.
Like permission to treat the witness as hostile, Your Honor?
Granted.
All right, Frank. You don't want to tell us? I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you exactly what kind of man you are.
Okay, let me stop real quick. Any lawyer wearing sunglasses in the courtroom while they're questioning a witness? Am I missing something here? It's like, okay, that's what I was gonna say, right? Am I missing the point? If you are not visually impaired, you probably should not be wearing sunglasses in the courtroom. The other thing that this clip brings up right off the bat is taking a witness hostile, right? If I'm calling a witness on direct examination, okay, so it's my witness, I call the witness on direct. Normally, I am not allowed to ask that witness leading questions. On direct examination, you're not supposed to be able to do that, okay? However, you can take on a witness that you call on direct as a hostile witness. I do it all the time. Normally, when I try a civil case, one of the very first witnesses I'll call, especially in a disputed liability case, is the defendant. So I'm calling the defendant, that's obviously a witness that's hostile to me. I'm calling that witness in my case in chief. I'm going to be representing the plaintiff. I call that witness first. I take that witness under, in California, we call it 776, right? Which is, we take them as a hostile witness and allows me to ask that witness leading questions in my direct examination.
And you are. You're the kind of man this city needs. Because, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we all know this city needs help. Needs it now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when the day comes when the corruption that Wilson Fisk left in his wake is flushed out for good and the police force is finally back on its feet. We need it now.
Okay, so this is a good example of what I was talking about before. You've got a lawyer that's just testifying. I mean, he said, I want to take this witness hostile, and then he goes off on like some argument that does not happen.
And the cops, they can't fix it alone. We all need men and women who are willing to take the fight themselves.
Yeah, this is total BS. Like, this would never happen in real life. This is like the lawyer putting on his closing argument while allegedly cross-examining a witness.
Heroes.
Order.
The help they offer. And the hope that they provide. Frank Castle wanted to help.
I find it funny that the judge calls for order in the courtroom when there's like a reaction from the gallery, but when the lawyer is breaking essentially every rule of conducting a cross-examination, the judge does nothing. And the DA looks like they're completely asleep at the wheel because this should all be objectionable.
He shot people. He killed people. It's against the law. And he broke that law many, many times.
Does he ever ask a question?
I don't like him any more than you do, but here's the thing. He's not a common criminal. He's not malicious in intent. Frank Castle is actually a good man. He doesn't know the difference between right and wrong anymore, and he doesn't need punishment for that. He needs help. Our help. That's the kind of man Frank Castle is. And now you have to decide what kind of jury you want to be.
Did I miss something? Is this still the examination of this witness? Because he's like doing his argument.
You ever heard an argument like that? Like, yeah, he broke the law, but we probably shouldn't punish him that hard.
Yeah, there's actually a phrase for that. It's called jury nullification, right? And essentially what it means is that a jury may decide that yes, in fact, somebody violated the law in some respect, but that violation was for some reason justified, right? And so there is actually a mechanism in the law for a jury to say, yes, this person may have committed a particular crime, but we don't believe they should be punished for the crime. Now, there's all sorts of exceptions to that. It is an incredibly complicated issue. But yes, there is instances where that can happen.
I know what I did. I know who I am. And I do not need your help. I'm smack dab in the middle of my right goddamn mind, and any scumbag, any lowlife, any maggot piece of shit that I put down, I did it because I liked it. Hell, I loved it. I'm sitting here, I'm just itching. I'm itching to do it again. And you think what? You think you're gonna send me to a nut house? Some doctor they're gonna get me to stop from doing what I want to do? Well, that ain't happening. Not on my watch. You people, you call me the Punisher, ain't that right? The big bad Punisher. Here I am. You want to hear that?
Remove the witness.
I am the Punisher. I'm right here. You want it? I'll give it to you. And anybody who came here today, hear me whine, hear me beg, you can kiss my ass. You hear me? I'm guilty. I plead, Judge.
What's this show called? Oh, so it's a comic book show? Yeah, that's why there's people with signs in the courtroom, because normally that doesn't happen either. This is Brian's Hat, full sketch. I think you should leave with Tim Robinson, season 2.
Seen this?
No.
These are so funny.
Okay.
Your Honor, the defense has tried to claim that their unloading of Qualstar stock the week before its value plummeted was sheer coincidence, a very lucrative coincidence. This text message exchange will prove that they knowingly engaged in insider trading. Ms. Hovell, do you recognize these text messages?
Yes.
And they are between whom?
Myself and Vincent Allen.
Vincent Allen, your co-defendant and colleague at Northrop?
Yes.
I will now read from these text messages dated April 12th of this year. Bree, did you talk to Dan at Qualstar? Vincent, he said they are laying off 300 people next week. Bree, we need to unload our shares before then. Vincent, I'm on it. Bree, be discreet. Vincent, of course. Bree, oh my God, did you see Brian's hat? Vincent, oh fuck. Ha 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 ha.
What the hell?
Bree, he looks so fucking stupid, I can't breathe. Vincent, what the hell even is it? Bree, it's a fedora with safari flaps in the back. Vincent, holy shit, he looks so fucking stupid. Talk later, I'll take care of that thing. Sounds like more than a coincidence to me. Ms. Hovell, do you recognize
In real
these
life,
texts?
we would call the hat a collateral issue, and probably doesn't need to be brought up in court.
I do.
Vincent, it's done. I talked to Dan. We're good. Bree, loose ends. Vincent, we're all good. About to be way better. Bree, smiley face emoji. Vincent, did you see Brian's hat? He's still fucking wearing it.
What the hell?
Bree, yes, I even saw 2 cubes in his pocket. I think he has dice, but he's afraid to show them to anyone.
What the hell are you even talking about?
Vincent, LOL, that is so sad. Bree, so sad, so sad. So
When he puts
sad.
the dice on the
Vincent,
floor.
It's so heartbreaking, but I can't stop laughing. Tears are literally streaming down my face, thinking about his dumb dice.
Leave it the fuck alone.
Bree, just wired the money. Vincent, holy fucking shit. Brian's hat just got him in huge trouble in a meeting.
God damn it.
Mr. Andrews made Brian take off his hat. He said it was distracting. He said if anyone disagreed, he'd let Brian keep the hat on. Nobody said shit, dude. Nobody said shit. Bree, what did he do when Mr. Andrews made him take it off? Vincent, he took the hat off and he hid his head in his hands. You could tell he was crying. He kept saying under his breath, "You can't fucking do that." Then Mr. Andrews said, "What's that, Brian?" And he said nothing. And then a minute later, he said, "It's not a distraction." The guy at the store said I'm the only guy he's ever seen pull it off. Mr. Andrews asked him how much it cost, and he said, "It's illegal for you to ask me that." And Brian said, "I'm putting the hat back on. I don't care what happens to me." Mr. Andrews said, "Just take the hat off, Brian." "No, I'm not taking the fucking hat off." Then he stood up and said, "I've never fought for anything in my entire life. I'm fighting for this hat." He went to slam his hand down on the table, but he hit his water bottle and it spilled all over his laptop. And then I swear to fucking God, he tried to roll the hat down his arm like Fred Astaire, but the back flap got trapped around Rick's wheelchair. And then it took him forever to get the flap out of the wheelchair. He was fucking beat red. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. One of the flaps got wheel grease on it, and he said, "What the fuck is all this stuff? You have to grease these wheels?" And Rick said, "Yeah, you have to keep the wheels lubricated." And he said, "Yeah, well, I'm not supposed to get grease on this hat." And Brenda was just sitting there slightly in his way towards the door, and as he walked towards her, he said, "Move." And right when he said it, he realized he had gone too far, so he said in a jokey voice, "Who said that?"
Don't do the voice.
Objection. Relevance.
Finally.
$sign emoji.
Quit fucking with him.
Oh, that is fantastic. What is this show called? I gotta watch this. I'm not gonna be able to seriously answer. Like, my face is red from having watched it. That's fantastic. Like, when are safari flaps actually appropriate? And on a fedora.
I've never fought for anything in my life.
You know, we all have to take a stand at some point. There are instances during the life of a case where something may come up that ultimately is in writing, deposition testimony in that instance, that you've got to excise out, right? So the discussion of Brian's hat would have been excised out of the text exchange related to the insider trading of stock. If any of you have any TV clips or clips from a movie that you'd like to have us react to, mention them in the comments below and we'll put them in a future video.